One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
What's up, Doom Nation, and welcome back. You are listening to the Two Doom Men podcast. As always, it's Skaggs and yours truly, the Captain. And tonight's episode is gonna be a bloodbath.
That's it. We just got monetized, and now we're getting pulled down already. CIA's coming for us, FBI, all that stuff. Yeah, man.
So what do we got? What do we got on the docket, pal? How you doing? How's the little ones? How was your 1 week of paternity leave?
Yeah, 1 week. That's all I get. The Two Doom Men land. Not more than that. No, it was good. Everybody's happy, healthy. Thank you for the shout out in the last episode. And you and Garrett had a really interesting episode. If you follow us on YouTube and you don't know what I'm talking about, it's because we couldn't put it up on YouTube the last one. So make sure you go check us out on Rumble. We put videos there as well. I have to vet anytime Captain and the Samurai do an episode. I have to vet it first before I put it out.
We know what we're about.
Spicy.
Yeah, we know what we're about.
So I'm back and thought this episode is almost like 4 years circling around.
It's weird, yeah. We went back and we looked at episode 38, and we're on episode like 238 now.
Yeah,
and it was our TikTok episode, and this, back in 2020, people wanted to ban TikTok, and here we are in 2024. And now it's an actual real thing because Donald Trump has nothing to do with it.
Groundhog Day. Yeah, that's a good point. It's more tangible now. It might actually happen this time around. So, yeah, we're going to talk about the TikTok ban, if you want to call it that, Congress passing a bill. It still has to go to the Senate to be passed. It's worth noting that Biden has said if it does get to his desk, he will sign it. And
of course he will.
Yeah, and we'll get into details about that. I thought maybe we could also talk about the bloodbath thing. I know you want to talk about that, Cap.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, it's pathetic.
Yeah, I mean, and then we also got Tyson Foods laying off thousands of workers, checking
on the migrant crisis.
Where do you want to start?
Let's start off with TikTok, man. So it's funny, like going back to our old episode, and we're like, let's watch our old episode and see what we thought back then 4 years ago. About TikTok, and then we could kind of like compare it to what we know now and this new thing now and how we feel about it now and all that stuff. And one of the things I noticed watching our old videos, so first of all, it's like cringe listening to yourself, especially a long time ago. But one of the things I noticed, it's like you have to be precise on these things. And I'm not saying we weren't precise, but I don't know how else to say it. Like, things have changed over 4 years.
Well,
tremendously.
I mean, the machine has not stopped for 4 years. I was listening to somebody today, and they were talking about how this just assault on the American public from the media alone. Forget what the government's doing. Forget COVID. Forget everything that has happened. For the past 9 years, the media has been assaulting the American citizens from the second Donald Trump came down those escalators to today has been an all-out war.
Yeah, it really is. I have a funny story, a personal story later. I'll tell a little bit later. But what I wanted to touch on was like being precise. So I want to like lay out what the new TikTok ban exactly is. I found somebody who has a really good kind of synopsis on it, so I'm gonna read.
Yeah, it kind of changes your opinion when you find out what it's all really about.
Yeah, when you know what you're talking about, right? That's always kind of important. So I got David Sachs journalist, and he has like a kind of summary that's not that long, so I'll read a little bit, and hopefully not too much to bore everybody. But David Sachs says, what's in the TikTok bill? It says, I've read HR 7521 carefully. Here's a summary of the operative provisions. Number 1, the bill prohibits foreign adversary-controlled applications from operating in the U.S. The prohibition applies not just to the app itself, but to the app stores and the internet hosting providers. Effectively, the bill creates a new kill switch, preventing distribution of prohibited apps or websites at the app store or hosting level. Number 2, what is a foreign adversary-controlled application, for FACA, it's going to be called? First, any website, desktop app, mobile app, or VR app operated by ByteDance or TikTok is a FACA. Second, so number 3. Second, almost any social/content sharing website, desktop app, mobile app, or VR app that has more than 1 million monthly active users can be a FACA if 2 conditions are met. First, if it's controlled by a foreign adversary. Second, if the president determines it is a present significant threat to the national security of the United States. Let's unpack each of these. Number 4, the term controlled by a foreign adversary means that the company is A, domiciled in, headquartered in, or organized under the laws of a foreign adversary country. For example, China, Russia, Iran, or North Korea. Or B, has a 20% ownership group from one of those countries. Or C, is subject to the direction or control of a foreign person or entity from one of those countries.
So really the foreign entities are just those 4 countries. It's not like Brazil is going to be a foreign entity or Ukraine. It's those 4.
At the moment, I guess you could say. Yes. Right? Number 5, the last part of that provision has rightly gotten a lot of attention because subject to the direction of a foreign person or entity is vaguer and broader than merely being under the control of that person or entity. In theory, if the Attorney General could make a case that a U.S. company was subject to the direction of a foreign person or entity from China or Russia, then the president could declare it a FACA. The company would then have to fight that determination in federal court. To make number 6, to make a determination of a national security threat under the act, the president must issue a public notice and report to Congress. Let's back up for a second to that last part. Subject to the direction of a foreign person or entity. Just like think about that statement, how really vague it is.
That's
good.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like,
my problem is when you lay it out and you're like China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, cool. I could wrap my head around that. You're giving me 4 places that are a no-no that we could apply this law or these rules to. But then the president is subject to determine what is also a foreign entity.
Right.
And that, it's been too, the atmosphere has just been too hectic for the past, we could even say 10 years, for the president to just have this type of a power, because we can't trust anyone. The left can't trust Donald Trump. The right can't trust Joe Biden. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I really feel like it's only a matter of time before like Elon releases something on Twitter and Joe's like, oh, foreign entity.
Right.
Or, Trump gets away with, he's not found guilty, doesn't have to pay any of his fines, whatever. This whole miracle happens in all his trials, and he gets up there on Truth Social, and now he's raising hell. Oh, Truth Social is a foreign entity.
Yeah, my interpretation is it does seem like it's kind of centralizing even more power in the president to kind of determine who's an enemy or not on social media. Yep. Again,
and the enemy is going to be whoever doesn't agree with what you're saying.
So, subject to the direction of a foreign person or entity. Subject to the direction of a foreign person or entity. Isn't there been something that's been repeated over and over and over again for the past 9 years? All right. Donald Trump, what is he? A Russian agent?
Yeah.
Right? Like, who's been throwing that term around and that phrase around for the past bunch of years? The government, right?
Left,
and the Democrats.
9 years now.
They throw those accusations around so flippantly. Just thinking to like accounts that I know on Twitter. I don't know if you know like Jackson Hinkle. He's such a clown. He seems like he might actually be a person that's subject to direction of a foreign entity. He's always like talking up Iran and Putin. He's an American guy, but he's always like talking up Iran and Putin. And I don't take him seriously at all. I figure like he must be
somebody's got to be their fans, right?
I don't even know that. Like he might actually be like a propagandist of theirs or something. But like that guy is going to probably get targeted by this thing. And like his accounts removed.
But he doesn't.
Like
he doesn't own an operating system that shares information and has 1 million followers.
Sure, he doesn't. Right? But when they signed the Patriot Act back in 2003 or whatever it was intended to target only foreign terrorist combatants, right? Yeah. And now it's being used to target January 6 people and Trump supporters and domestic terrorists, right? So it's just caution when you're giving the government's trying to pass a bill to give itself more power to do something. Yeah, and like what is this going to look like 20 years from now?
I know it's sad. It's going to look like the Ministry of Truth. Mm-hmm. It's sad because, I mean, I don't want my data mined to China, and I know we're going to get into China and the guys from Singapore and all that stuff, but I don't want any foreign influence getting a hold of my data. I don't want the FBI and the CIA and the U.S. government mining my data as well. But we're just so divided as a country right now, and we have such a bad taste. Like this really attributes to the all-time low trust in the U.S. government, because even though this potentially at the moment might stop China from mining our data, we just can't trust them to uphold this and just stop it there.
Of course,
this year it's just going to stop China, Russia, and Iran. Mm-hmm. Next year, it's going to stop
domestic terrorists, or just domestic terrorists would be applied to something like that. Or like trust in the everybody knows, right? Trust in the institutions is an all-time low, and rightfully so
for good reason.
Yeah. Let me keep reading here. Another so part number 7. A FACA has 180 days to divest if its owners want to avoid a total ban. So divest means you have to like sell off the company to an approved company, right? So like this is so far away from like free market, first of all, right? This is like controlled economy, but so a FACA has 180 days to divest if its owners want to avoid a total ban. The president gets to determine what qualifies as a proper divestiture. Oh man, that's just so vague and like up to interpretation.
The president, well, from the way I interpret it, is the president of the United States gets to tell a foreign businessman what he can and can't do with his money.
Or just like, let's say ByteDance sells off their piece of TikTok to Facebook. Right. Well, then President Biden gets to like review the paperwork and be like, good or not good. Yeah. Go back and redraw up the deal again or something like that.
The only thing that I see a real problem with here is there's definitely loopholes. There's definitely room for corruption. So now, TikTok, sells off its shares, right? Now, the way I would do it is, okay, if I have to disinvest or whatever, I'm going to get an inside guy to buy it up. And you know what I mean? Like, I'm the foreign entity. You're my man here, and you're my businessman here in America. So you're going to buy up my shares, right? I'm going to sell it to you. And then on the down low, me and you are still going to work together and do what we got to do, right? Or on the other hand, Hunter Biden's fucking unemployed right now. Guess who gets to run TikTok now? Who gets
on the board? Right? Who's on the board of TikTok? Hunter Biden pushing his art videos? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I could see like, I could see there's definitely loopholes, because in the state of New York, when they legalized marijuana and started issuing the let's just call them certificates for now, to open up dispensaries in the state of New York, like they were only going to open up like 10, let's say, in the first year, and 7 of those 10 had to be black business owners, right, to receive these certificates. So as and I'm not no wealthy
I also
white
remember
guy or anything
from
like that.
I also remember like Cuomo got to decide the fund
where taxes,
the money went.
I don't know if that happened or not.
He got like final say on who got approved or not. It was the most like mafia scheme that ever existed. Sorry to cut you off.
But anyway, and so like So everybody was like, yeah, equality, great. We have equity in the dispensary industry. No, you don't. You just get some fucking rich billionaire white guy to go, hey, Mr. Black businessman, here's $10 million. Go start this dispensary. I'm your partner. You're going to make 20%. I'm going to make 80%. And then after a year, I'm going to probably cut you out.
Yeah, it was right. It was almost like you were hiring someone to be your front man. Yeah.
That's all you got to do. And the exact same situation here. You just need to find the right front man, and trust me, they're for sale. TikTok, hit me up. I will buy it. You know what? You want the information? Let's go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Hunter Biden would be the perfect front man for that.
Thank you.
Shout out to our boy Chris. He left a comment on the page here on the live. Go follow him if you like streaming Call of Duty, Fortnite, all that shit. KRYZ.
He's been playing some new space video game.
Hell Divers. Yeah, it's apparently
that
really
looks
fun.
pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, let's get back to this. There's 2 more points, and then we will continue on to the next portion, which is our own portion of this. So here's this. This is really like funny too. Number 8, the Attorney General is empowered to investigate potential violations and can pursue enforcement actions in federal district court. The main penalty is $5,000 per user fine. Thus, for example, Apple could be on the hook for $500 billion fine if all 100 million American TikTok users illegally access the app through Apple's platform. The AG may not pursue enforcement against an individual user of a FATCA. So like, oh, thanks.
So
like me
we're
and
safe,
we're safe. Like we can't, if we try to jailbreak it or something and get through, we can't get in trouble. But the App Store can.
I gotta say though, like we're talking about like low trust for all these institutions. Yeah, because right now on March 20th, 2024, we know every attorney general is above board.
Yeah,
there ain't no attorney generals fucking around right now. Go on.
Yeah, so that's the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. You know, just thinking back to me and you when we were talking about it last time, like I think we probably still agree, like the cultural component of TikTok we don't like. Like I'm not going to advise people use TikTok. We do use it on, you know, for the podcast, but I kind of just post and ghost. Then, you know, I get out of there. I don't actually use it. And part of the strategy of that is like if there's going to be bad stuff on there or some sort of subversion that I'm going to subvert back with, you know, like the news, like if there's going to be fake news everywhere and things and, you know, people being NPCs, then I'm going to also try and do my part to add some news, some substantial news onto the app. So I still agree with that. I'll play a clip here in a minute from our last episode, TikTok, where I said that I had found proof that China did or was essentially owned TikTok or something like that. And then we can contrast it to the CEO talking the other day, which is really interesting. So I'm going to play this next part, and we'll go from there. So this is the first time I think we've ever done this. This is interesting. The first time we're flashing back to an old two.
Look at these two guys.
Yeah, we look so much younger, man. 4 years. Yeah. Look at this mop on this guy's head right here. Wow. Look at that.
I probably got the same amount.
Yeah. All right, so let's hear what I had to say.
And drinking,
so if
too.
you don't believe that they're tied to the Chinese government, on August 28th, 2020, the Chinese Ministry of Commerce and the Chinese Ministry of Science and Technology announced that any sale of ByteDance's technology to foreign firms is a matter of national security and would require prior approval. Why would they think it's a matter of national security?
If they got nothing to hide,
if they got nothing
to
hide. Why is it a matter of national security if ByteDance is not tied to the Chinese government? It's a matter of national security because I guarantee they are storing Americans' data. They have some sort of like think tank of how can we like cause disruption in America? How can we cause more division? They got smart motherfuckers, smarter than me and you, smarter than most of the people watching.
Not hard to do.
Trying to figure out how can they cause more division in America. There's, without doubt. All right, so I still really agree with the sentiment of that, right? That like they, I'm not here to defend the CCP and say that they're not doing some sort of shady things in the background.
It's almost certain that they are.
Yeah, definitely. But the thing is, I'm thinking about what I said back then, and of course it would be a national security threat to them, right? Because like in China, they have complete ironclad control of the app on their, on their own people. there is a version of TikTok there. I forget exactly what it's called, but they run it, right? Like
Yeah.
they run
Yeah.
it, and it's all like videos of kids like reading and like working out and like
They
being
promote
scientists.
different things. Yeah.
And that's by design. Now, but that doesn't mean like that's their version. And if you want to like do business in China, no matter what your business is, whether it's TikTok or if you want to sell shoes, or even like Google or whatever, you have to play by those rules because it's a totalitarian regime country. So that's not special, is what I'm trying to say. That scenario. That doesn't mean that the entire company is actually owned by the CCP, right? That's actually not the case. Just the portion of it that's being used in China is blocked down by the regime. But the portion of it that's used here and elsewhere in the world is not necessarily controlled by the CCP. I have some more stuff here, but I don't know if before I get into that, if there's anything else you want to touch on.
Well, I mean, culturally, I'm still on the same page as less social media is better.
Yeah.
Now where we are in our podcasting career, I guess more social media would be better, unfortunately. But I really believe there is these terrible downsides with social media. It's definitely added to the decay of society. So I'm still really in favor of getting rid of it. But my question is like, now, why do you think they want to get rid of it? Because, I don't know if you have anything that you want to get into with this, but like, I really feel it's an attempt to regain the narrative because the administration and the establishment has truthfully lost a large part of the narrative. I mean, who's tuning in to MSNBC anymore? No one believes what even left-wing liberals don't believe what MSNBC has to say anymore. The whole non-ceasefire in Gaza in Palestine, they're losing their base. They're literally trying to replace us with immigrants because we no longer agree with them. And it's an election year. Let's take a shot at TikTok and try and regain the narrative so we could spew the garbage coming up to the election. And I don't even want to say the word interference, but interfere.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do think so. Like if you just think back, they to 1970, there was like the few handful of news channels, and like they worked in tandem with whatever the government told them, and they did. But now, I made a corny reference a couple of weeks ago. Like social media is a double-edged sword. So grab your edge and wield it effectively, right? It's I don't know if that exactly makes sense. If you grab the edge of a sword, your hand would be cut, right? But actually, that does make sense.
The edge that fucks them is the one that you want to use.
Wield it effectively. Like, that's what we're usually trying to do here on social media. So the toothpaste is kind of out of the tube in that regard. And what this whole thing shows me is that TikTok definitely is not outright controlled or influenced by our own government. By our own government, they wouldn't be going through this this level of like extortion if it was. What they would be doing is like the Twitter file stuff, right? They'd just be working with them concurrently, which we also have like the hindsight of knowing all that now as well, years later, as opposed to this was way before that. But
what if Rumble buys so now like the next thing is like, okay, so why are they doing this? But then who's gonna buy TikTok, right? Are they gonna make sure it's is it Mark Zuckerberg, their inside guy, or are we gonna have Rumble buy it? Like who gets to buy it? Who gets first dibs?
That goes back to the president gets to decide what a proper divestiture is, right? Like, yes, let's say Rumble came up with the money in order to buy TikTok. No, I'm going to assume Biden's not going to approve the deal, right? Say it's not a proper divestiture. And
trust me, in this day and age, Biden, the administration, the regime, they have no problem throwing it in our face and saying, no, Rumble is not a good source. They spread misinformation. We don't want to allow them to buy TikTok and squash the deal.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
That's basically that. I mean, if from the definition of fascism, the merger of corporation and the government, this is pretty fascist, don't you think?
I know. Yeah. Well, it's a new brand of totalitarianism that hasn't been properly coined yet. It's a mixture of Marxism and fascism.
For the digital age.
Yeah, for the digital age. I don't know. I was just thinking before, getting back to the present aspect of it, that video I played earlier, someone had commented underneath showing how Biden had previously said that Elon Musk acquiring Twitter might be a threat to national security. There it is right there.
Yeah.
This could just be something else like that. Like they just don't want another platform out there that they can't control. If you also look at who voted in favor, at least in Congress, and it has to go through Senate and all that stuff. But if you look at who voted against this and who voted in favor of this, like the Libertarians voted, of course, against this, Thomas Massey, and the Freedom Caucus, like the good, MAGA Republicans, the handful of them that there are, they all voted against this as well. And then everybody else kind of voted like bipartisan in unison. So it was like, I think like 20 something, to a couple hundred voted in unison. And like, then Nancy Pelosi and all them are up there like saying how this is so important. This is so good. Yeah. I don't know. Like
that's why, when you get somebody like Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi to pop up on stage and be like, no, this is what we need to do right there. And then you should
flag.
Do the opposite. Do the opposite.
Yeah.
If Nancy Pelosi is telling you to stop eating McDonald's, you better get to McDonald's and start scarfing that shit down. It's for your health.
I try not to fall victim to like other siderism where I just oppose things because like an other side is doing it. But I think someone like Nancy Pelosi qualifies for other siderism.
Yeah.
Anytime she is doing something,
Adam
you
Schiff,
might
any of
want
those
to.
guys,
So let's move on to the next interesting clip I have here. This was a while ago, not that long ago.
Questioning? Or?
Yeah, a couple months ago. So this is the CEO of ByteDance, who owns TikTok, Mr. Shao Chu, and he was testifying. Does it say the date? It doesn't say the date, but he was testifying to Capitol Hill a couple months ago, and I saw this at the time. I didn't realize it was going to lead to like an outright ban or anything like that. And I commented on it, which I have a funny comment. We'll play it. We'll show that after. But let's hear what this exchange was.
I think they then had a lawsuit and it was overturned. I can't remember the details. It's another company.
The Biden administration that reversed those sanctions, just like, by the way, they reversed the terrorist.
Well, for those listening, so he's being questioned also by Tom Cotton, who's Republican, and there'd be some America First types who like him and think he's good. I don't think so, but anyway, that's who's questioning the CEO here.
First designation on the Houthis in Yemen, how's that working out for them? But it was sanctioned as a Chinese communist military company. So you said today, as you often say, that you live in Singapore. Of what nation are you a citizen?
Singapore.
Are you a citizen of any other nation?
No, Senator.
Have you ever applied for Chinese citizenship?
Senator, I served my nation in Singapore. No, I did not.
Do you have a Singaporean passport?
Yes, and I served my military for two and a half years in Singapore.
Do you have any other passports from any other nations?
No, Senator.
Your wife is an American citizen. Your children are American citizens.
Pause it for a second.
That's correct.
Have you ever applied for American citizenship?
Now I understand that these questions seem kind of stupid, and especially in this situation, but these are the questions that we should be asking our congressmen and women. What other passports do you have? Do you have dual citizenship? Where do you have citizenship to? Because there's a lot. Adam Schiff's one of them that has citizenship to Israel.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of people like that, right? Like where there's
there are a lot of politicians,
or even Ilhan Omar, right, with Somalia. Yeah, that's a good point, right? But instead, it's the shoes on the other foot here. It's the.
I mean, this guy doesn't need to get grilled like this, but some of her own congressmen do.
Right there too. I mean, the guy's wife and children are American. Like he's Singaporean, but the wife and children are American.
Citizenship.
No, not yet.
Okay. Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Senator, I'm Singaporean. No.
Have you ever been associated or affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party?
No, Senator. Again, I'm Singaporean.
Let me ask you some hopefully simple questions. You said earlier, in response to a question, that what happened at Tiananmen Square in June of 1989 was a massive protest. Did anything else happen in Tiananmen Square?
Yes, I think it's well documented. There was a massacre.
There was an indiscriminate slaughter of hundreds or thousands of Chinese citizens. Do you agree with the Trump administration and the Biden administration that the Chinese government is committing genocide against the Uyghur people?
Senator, I've said this before. I think it's really important that anyone who cares about this topic or any topic can freely express themselves on TikTok.
It's a very simple question that unites both parties in our country and governments around the world. Is the Chinese government committing genocide against the Uyghur people?
Senator, anyone, including, you can come into TikTok and talk about this topic.
I'm asking you,
or any topic that matters to you.
You are a worldly, cosmopolitan, well-educated man who's expressed many opinions on many topics. Is the Chinese government committing genocide against the Uyghur people?
Actually, Senator, I talk mainly about my company, and I'm here to talk about what TikTok does.
Yes or no? You're here to give testimony that's truthful and honest and complete. Let me ask you this. Joe Biden last year said that Xi Jinping was a dictator. Do you agree with Joe Biden? Is Xi Jinping a dictator?
Senator, I'm not going to comment on any world leaders.
What?
Interesting.
Yeah, that's where it gets a little interesting that now he won't throw China under the bus either.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Just to defend him, I guess. I don't know. Are you in the position to throw world leaders under the bus? You know, like
you're not. You're not. You're there to talk about dictators. You're sorry, got me all fucked
right,
up.
TikTok.
You're there to talk. You're there to talk about TikTok and your business, not Tiananmen Square.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he is an expert. I don't know. Is he an expert on world history? Is the CEO of TikTok? Maybe not.
No, he's not.
You know, I stopped sharing, but this is one of my better tweets. I know it made you laugh the other day.
This is so I didn't see the video. I only saw the comment in our notes.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I said, sir, you goddamn slanty eyes. You must be a Chinaman of some sort, surely now, I reckon. I got like 40,000 views and a couple hundred likes on that one. It did give me like this whole, this whole exchange did give me that vibe. Like, I don't know, Tom Cotton, do you even know what Singapore is, like where it is? I don't know. It felt very ignorant and not exactly a great line of questioning. It felt like he's asking you a lot of like gotcha questions instead of having anything actually substantial. It's all just, might be a little bit of political grandstanding and theater, as they say. Oh, any other thoughts on that one?
To be fair, no, but pretty funny.
All right, I still got a lot more on this, man. I don't know. Do you want me to keep going into? I do think that this.
Now we've been on this for a half hour. Yeah. We got what 2-3 other topics we want to get to.
Let me go to this last part here. This last article I have here actually. This is from The Intercept by Ken Klippenstein. And he says, TikTok threat is pure.
I didn't even read this. I saw this.
So TikTok threat is purely hypothetical, U.S. intelligence admits. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I have a couple parts I remember to read. So the purported threat of TikTok to U.S. national security has inflated into a hysteria of Chinese spy balloon proportions, but the official record tells us a different story. U.S. intelligence has produced no evidence that the popular social media site has ever coordinated with Beijing. The fact hasn't stopped many in Congress and even President Joe Biden from touting legislation that would force a sale of the app. In interviews and testimony to Congress about TikTok, leaders of the FBI, CIA, and the Director of National Intelligence have, in fact, been careful to qualify the national security threat posed by TikTok as purely hypothetical. With access to much of the government's most sensitive intelligence, they are well placed to know. I will give you one example. Typical is an interview CIA Director William Burns gave to CNN in 2022 where he said it was troubling to see what the Chinese government could do to manipulate TikTok, not what the Chinese government has done, but what it could do. There's some other, if you want to read this, it's interesting.
Really going to trust what the CIA has to say?
I always like to think of incentives, though, right?
Yeah.
Like their incentive in this regard is to be like, yep, yes. They manipulate everything. We don't manipulate anything on our side of things. They're the bad guys. We're the good guys. So I found this interesting that there's a lot of these directors, heads of the FBI, Christopher Wray saying similar, all kind of, it's not that they're saying no, it's that they're saying like, we don't have any evidence. We think they might be, but we don't have any direct evidence. There's a part down here. Let's see. All right. It just I won't read any more of this, but like just this whole thing. This made me think like I'm lacking any hard evidence proposed by Congress or anyone. Mm-hmm. They're just making an accusation, right?
That brings me to the point. Why are you trying to do this? Why all of a sudden, Trump wanted to do this in 2020. and they scoffed at the idea. They laughed at him. It wasn't a national security threat, and now it is. And my gut's telling me they need to regain the narrative however they can, or set a precedent to regain the narrative elsewhere.
From our episode 4 years ago, I provided more evidence that TikTok is being controlled by the CCP than Congress has, where I brought up that instance of them saying it was a national security threat to their interests. Like, I haven't seen anything out of this besides the bill and them being like, it's dangerous, you know? So I don't know. I am against it now, I'd say, whereas before I was for it. Now I'm against it. So I actually had a real quick. Let's end on this. I have a funny personal story about this. The other day, my dad came over to visit the newborn, and my dad just got a new car. God bless my dad. My dad got his first new car since 2006. He decided to upgrade from a 2006 Nissan Sentra to a 2024 Nissan Sentra.
I knew that was fucking coming.
So while he's over at the house, this is the first time I get to see his new car. I'm like, oh, let me go check out the new car. Now, you know, the new cars, they all have like the bells and whistles. They have the
buttons and
I know. My dad's an old school Italian guy. He don't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to set up on it. I'm like, oh, I'll set up your Apple CarPlay for you. This way you can, you know, and I explain the whole thing. And while I'm doing that, my dad's listening to 770 AM. I believe it was Mark Levin who's on the radio. Now, I've said this many times on the podcast. I normally don't go back to the normal TV or radio and listen to any of the old traditional broadcasts anymore. So I enjoy these little tiny like instances where I get to, because it's usually like shocking to me to hear what these people are saying on these things. Remember how I talked about New Year's Eve and watching the commercials and all that stuff? So this was one of those moments. Like while I'm trying to figure out the airplay, I'm listening to Mark Levin here play. And he is without a shadow of an absolute doubt. Now, this is like a right-wing talking, like news station. Without a shadow of a doubt, he's saying yes. China owns TikTok. They control everything that comes on there. They're using it to subvert our democracy. And he was making the point. He was like, you know, Rand Paul and Thomas Massey, I'm the libertarian on this one, not you guys, because you guys are doing the bidding of the CCP, and I'm here trying to protect the freedom of the American people. And I'm just like, you're the libertarian for advocating that the government regulate the market and ban a company from doing business in America, and
being a fascist. Yeah,
you know, it's just bizarre. But like that's what's being said on the old channels.
Because anybody who's listening to the old ways, the old channels, are not as tech savvy. You know, once Tucker went off the air, I was like, oh, shit, my dad's going to tune into Fox every day, and he's just going to ingest whatever shit they spew. Because first off, he's lucky he could pronounce Twitter, and now it's X. He has no idea what we're you know what I mean?
That really threw the old timers for a loop.
Literally, I'll send him the videos that Tucker posts, and I'm like, all you got to do is press play.
Push the button.
And he's like, where?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, go back to listening to AM radio.
Yeah. So that's always interesting. And that was a little piece of evidence, I think, that vindicates us from talking about that. So, yeah, man, go ahead. You pick the next topic. What do you want to move on to?
Let's talk about the bloodbath situation, because this is a very unique and interesting situation. And this situation, I believe, took Trump derangement syndrome is now taking a major hit. So, do you have the clip by any chance or no?
I do. Hang on, I wasn't prepared.
I mean, if you don't want to share it or play it, it's fine. We could describe it.
Yeah, describe it.
So Trump, I forget where he was, but he's talking about the auto industry and how China is going to build all these auto plants.
Sorry, I have it here if you do want me to play it.
Plants.
Yeah, go for it so I don't butcher it.
Yeah, like they all did. Yeah. All right. Yeah, so like you're setting the stage here. This is one of Trump's rallies over, I guess, the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine, all he does is build car manufacturing plants. He's the biggest in the world. I mean, honestly, I joke about it. He can't walk across the street. In that way, he's like Biden. But for building a plant, he can do the greatest plants in the world, right?
All right, I'll end it there. We get the gist. Go ahead.
We don't
take.
Stage
is yours.
MSN, mainstream MSM, mainstream media took the one sentence of, if I'm not elected, it will be a bloodbath, and ran nationwide that Trump is saying if he is not elected, people are going to die. There will be a bloodbath. Joe Biden's camp even cut a promo.
A campaign video.
Immediately after the fact that Twitter exploded saying, no, this is taken way out of context. This is the context. After it was all proven and said and done, the Biden administration still put out a campaign ad saying that, oh, Trump's going to have a bloodbath if he doesn't win. This was an interesting thing to happen, because I'm not going to go on the conspiracy thing and say, oh, Trump planned this or whatever. Maybe did, maybe didn't. Doesn't matter at this point. But we now saw firsthand, there's more people awake now than there's ever been, and people waking up every day to this bullshit. And now firsthand, you got to see mainstream media take something out of context to defame Trump and fuck him over and lie to the American people. And it was that easy to find out that it wasn't a lie. So I think Trump derangement syndrome might be coming to an end, or it's going to have to evolve, because they're not going to be able to play this game anymore. This didn't last. This didn't last a morning.
It got put out right away. Yeah. I think what
do you call it? Ratioed and shit like
ratioed,
that?
Right.
And community guidelines and stuff on Twitter. Destroyed everyone. Yeah. And they had everyone. It almost makes me feel like it was planned, because like before the day was over, like Hillary Clinton's commenting on it, Nancy Pelosi, you know what I'm saying? Like all these heavy hitters are commenting on it. There's campaign ads made for it and shit. It's wild that like they tried to ignite this fire this fast.
I don't think it was planned in the sense like Trump planned it. I think he was just shooting from the hip like he normally does, talking about the economy. I think it was planned. The Operation Mockingbird aspect of it, of course, was planned. Where they, like, oh, look, we have this great thing that makes them look bad. Let's now like spin this 1,000 times and repetition. But things have changed, as you said, right? Not only are people now more critical thinking and, tired of the TDS thing, but we also have Twitter. Right, which is not perfect, but a more free speech platform than it used to be. And the theme of this episode is kind of social media to begin with, and it didn't fly. Right, so on there it didn't fly. I got fact checked, people pointing it out. Michael Malice, I'm going to butcher this, had a goddamn great tweet where he was like, "You don't need a monopoly on the narrative; you just need one alternative." Right, that's all it takes is you get one alternative, and you can make a difference in this entire thing. To the point where like. I compared this back to the Very Fine People hoax, where they tried to say that he said, the Charlottesville riots, where he tried to say that the white supremacists and then the other people that were protesting there, I think Black Lives Matter, he was trying to say, well, they're very fine people on both sides, and they clipped that one. And after he said very fine people on both sides, he literally said, "I'm not talking about the white nationalists, though they should be completely and totally condemned. They're awful." Essentially, but they clipped that part and then tried to say that he said that the white nationalists were very fine people. It's the same thing, but back then it wasn't
January
as easy.
6th, go home peacefully.
But that became like the dominant thing people thought about that, and we didn't have Twitter in the way it is now to kind of like check that in like lightning speed, like with a fire hose, and put it out immediately. What's lost on this whole thing, which what I fucking hate about this whole, we're far enough in, we could curse now, Cap. What I hate about this whole thing is like it's like such lowbrow stuff we have to do, where we have to be like, he didn't actually say bloodbath. Woo! Like that's such high IQ things we have to talk about. If they really, real quick, let me make a point here. if you really wanted to like pick apart anything Trump said there in that tweet, I would criticize the fact that he said he wants to put 100% tariff on Chinese vehicles. Bro, who's going to pay the price for 100% tariff on vehicles?
So nobody buys them. He's going to kill the industry for them.
The consumer, right? China's not going to actually pay the tariff. They're going to just raise the price of the car, which is going to raise the price of other cars that aren't made in China, like the American cars, right? That's like some substantial debate that we could have and point things out with them, but that's not what's being talked about. Bloodbath is what's being talked about.
It's not about policy anymore. You say, how we still have to go through and do this, because look at where we are. Joe Biden's not campaigning. What can he stand up and say he did for the country? The only way your life is better now than it was 4 years ago is if you're an illegal criminal who crossed the border illegally. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's life's better. So it's literally just campaigning to be not Trump. You know what I mean? Like, that's all they're campaigning on. And it's going to be nothing but low-hanging fruit. It's going to be nothing but bad news about Trump or taking things he said out of context, because they have nothing to run on.
Yeah.
And everything you were saying with, how Twitter's changed and stuff, and we were able to put this out. That leads me to why are they going after TikTok now? Because they set the precedent for TikTok. They ban TikTok. They divest whatever. Now they go after X before the election starts.
Yeah.
What happens there? Then this type of stuff stops. If Elon had to divest and sell off his shares of Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, this fire wouldn't have been put out. We'd still be hearing today, almost a week later, about how Trump said he's going to kill people if he doesn't get elected.
Yeah, right. They definitely want control. Thinking back to TikTok again too. I've heard people say, the Israeli lobby could be big on this whole thing. They don't like the fact that on TikTok there's a lot of leftists who are doing like the ceasefire Gaza stuff. Like those videos are trending there often. That's not bad for that regime's PR campaign. And obviously the Israeli lobby is very intertwined with Congress, right? So they could be pushing for that. I also am thinking back to one more TikTok thing a couple months ago, back in November, when Osama bin Laden's declaration of war went viral on TikTok, just out of the blue. Affluent white women decided, hey, we're going to read his fatwa of war. And, there was some, and again, like there's no nuance in these things, right? So they were reading it and like, oh, America's bad because we're the colonizers. And, Osama bin Laden was justified in his, whatever he did on 9/11, the terrorist attack. No, that's not right. But, there are some grievances in his letter where he talks about foreign policy, like the bases in Saudi Arabia, and specific foreign policy points of like empire overseas and indiscriminate bombing campaigns and the war in Iraq and things like that. Now, if we looked at that, we'd be like, maybe we shouldn't be pissing these people off over there and then causing blowback to make them attack us later on. That got pulled down immediately, right? So maybe that was on TikTok. The Guardian, who's the website The Guardian, who had that letter, they ended up removing it. It was up there for fucking 23 years. But when it was up there for 23 years. But then when people started reading it, they took it down. How funny is that? Yeah. Like you have a book in a library its entire life until people start reading it, then you got to throw the book out. So that might be factoring into that as well.
Can't change the narrative, buddy.
Yeah. All right. What's next? What is next? Actually, hang on. I got one more thing here. I thought was funny about the bloodbath, the bloodbath thing. So this is from a tweet from Daniel Goldman. He's a guy running for Congress in New York State. And he goes, since when does anyone use the term bloodbath related to economic problems, especially someone who's already incited a bloodbath after he lost the last election? We all know what he meant. Keep the gaslighting to yourself. So I replied, yeah, Merriam-Webster, known domestic terrorist. If you go in Google, or if you go to Merriam-Webster's dictionary website, you type in bloodbath, number 2B, a major economic disaster, is under there, which is exactly what Trump was referring to.
Yeah.
So, like, it's literally on Merriam-Webster's. Merriam-Webster, a right-wing, website? No.
We're gonna have Hey,
I guess now it is,
give
but
it give it some time, and we'll start taking definitions out of the dictionary.
oh yeah, right.
Well, I mean, during COVID, we changed they changed the definition of herd immunity. They
right.
changed
Not above,
the definition
not
of
beneath
fully
them.
vaccinated.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, shit.
We got 10,
why not?
10 minutes left, Cap. I'm gonna let you choose. What's the last topic before we do tweets of the week?
All right. Well, what was your other topic that you wanted to talk? I wanted to do Tyson's Foods because
These are two kind of
then what
related.
was-
The federal judge is ruled that illegal people can carry weapons. Yeah. Or have weapons.
My little topic is you'll never hear all captains saying he's offended, but I think it's time to boycott Tyson Foods. They are laying off thousands of workers. I want to say upwards of 40,000, but I really don't know. So don't quote me or hold me to that number. They want to lay off hundreds of thousands of employees, and they're going to look to rehire illegal criminals who have crossed the southern border. I mean, what a slap in the face. One of the factories that they're thinking of laying off people, I think it's in like a town of like 8,000 people, and something like 2,200 people from that town work in the Tyson food factory. They're going to cripple an entire American town for DEI and to hire criminals to work for them.
Yeah, I think something
that wildly offensive.
Yeah.
Wildly offensive.
Something that could be missing from the whole migrant debate. It's that there's such large swaths of people coming over that you could have like economic repercussions similar to like the Rust Belt, where we used to make cars and stuff in America, throughout, Detroit to Ohio, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Like that was all like a manufacturing center.
Yeah.
And then they signed a couple trade deals, which made, the jobs all left to go overseas and screwed that whole region over. A lot of those towns lost their jobs, and it ends up now the nickname is the Rust Belt, right? Because if you drive around, you see a lot of old rusted out factories that are like the vestiges of that thing.
Remember Ohio? All those abandoned buildings?
Right. Yes. Yeah. When we went to Cleveland and watched a Giants game. Yeah, that's literally what it is. So like there could be some aspect. Not that there could be. There definitely will be some aspect of this if we don't get some border fucking sanity. People's economically, people are going to be displaced and replaced. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. So if you
there's nowhere to go from here. So it's not like So let's bring up your topic because I have a pretty good question.
Sure.
To ask on this topic.
So I'll read just the first part. Illinois judge rules illegal migrants can carry guns. Federal judge.
Wild that it's from fucking Illinois, a blue state that is super strict on gun control. Continue.
A federal judge in Illinois, appointed by Obama, ruled that the Constitution protects the rights of non-citizens who entered the U.S. illegally after a Mexican immigrant living in Chicago was found in possession of a handgun. U.S. District Judge Sharon Coleman ruled earlier this month that a federal ban on undocumented immigrants owning firearms is unconstitutional and dismissed charges against the people in the case. That is the gist of it.
The Constitution protects non-Americans. Bullshit. Oh, bullshit. Oh, bullshit. My big question here is, now for anybody who doesn't own a gun, and I highly doubt there's any anti-second lefty loons listening to the show, and not an hour, not 50 minutes into the episode either. But for anybody who's never bought a firearm or purchased a firearm, there's paperwork you have to fill out to some extent. It's not like the Democrats make it out to be, that you walk into a store and you buy an AR-15. Now, in New York, I haven't bought a gun in a while. But there's two questions on the form. There's two questions. Do you know what those questions are, Scott?
Are you a citizen?
Yes. Are you a citizen? And two, are you buying this gun for an illegal alien? Yeah. If you choose no on the citizen's part and yes on the I'm buying it for an illegal alien, you don't get the gun.
Well, not anymore. This changes that.
Yeah, I guess so. So they have to be removing those questions, I assume.
Yeah, probably.
Right?
They'll probably reissue the paperwork if this stands. It is interesting. Very interesting, right? Like this is one.
It's
a wrench.
You know what it tells me? What it tells me is I'm really buying into this great replacement. The establishment and the left is tired of the American citizens. We do not agree with them anymore. They even lost the black community that they've taken advantage of for hundreds of years. So they are literally just going to replace American citizens with non-citizens so they have a voting base again. I really believe that's a real thing. And they're going so far to codify them that, they're now allowed to be armed. It's not enough that they're literally raping and killing and attacking people, and they're on camera beating up NYPD officers and then getting out within 24 hours and flipping off the cameras saying, fuck you guys. It's not enough to just let them get away with crime. We got to arm them too.
Well, yeah.
And then you go with your poke the bear theory. Mm-hmm. You start arming all these they're not immigrants, I'm sorry, these criminals. You start arming all these criminal aliens. And then one day in Alabama or New Mexico or some southern fucking state, these illegals are going to pull a gun, and there's going to be 4 good old boys that are going to turn them into jail. Swiss cheese.
Yeah, of course.
Think.
Yeah, right. I agree 100%. Like, those scenarios probably will happen. In this thing, it's like I look at this and I'm like, what are they up to? Right? Like, are you trying to get me to support gun control? And I'm gonna be honest with you, like, I ain't gonna fall for it. Right? Like, I know what the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are, right? They are limitations and restrictions on government. They do not grant or endow you with any rights. They just say what the government can and can't do to you, right? Your right to bear arms is naturally inherent, either given by God or just by you being a product of a living creature, a living human on the earth. So I don't even in theory or principle, I agree with the ruling in theory and principle. You have rights,
natural rights.
Right, you have natural rights, and one of them is that you can bear a firearm to defend yourself. Mm-hmm. Also, I think it's well documented that making things illegal, especially when it comes to guns, doesn't actually stop people from using guns. Also, it's not that they're arming the illegal migrants. It's just that they're saying they can buy guns. Like, if they're passing a bill, like, we're going to start handing out Obama guns to people, right? Instead of Obama phones. I'm like, well, hang on now. Now you're doing, like, now you're in like the positive rights aspect of government, which is against the Constitution, where, like, you don't get something from government. You just can't take away something from government. Now, of course, there is the angle that you're talking about. Where, like, hey, all these people are coming in. Now they could carry
aged men.
Well, you know what? So can we. You know what I mean? And we got way more than they do at this point in time. Yeah. So I'm not really concerned about it at the time. I'm not going to like fall for the psyop of supporting gun control, which will then later be probably turned even more against us or something like that. I think they got it right for the wrong reasons here. That's my assessment.
Fair enough. That's well put.
Of it, yeah. And I think I will leave it at that, and we could go on to end it at Tweets of the Week.
Tweets of the Week.
Did you have tweets?
I got 3, pal.
All right, there we go.
I got 3 of them for you.
Good for you. All right. You got 3, I got 4, so we'll start with mine, and yours will be in between. Now, these are all, most of them are relevant to what we were talking about tonight. My first one is from Thomas Massey. Said, I've come to the conclusion that an economic catastrophe must happen before a majority of my colleagues will get serious about curbing out-of-control government spending. I don't know when those things will occur, but that will be the order of operations. That is a pretty black pill to take. Yeah.
Fair to say, but the only problem is his colleagues won't feel the catastrophe the way we'll feel it. Mm-hmm. So I don't even know if that's going to 100%
maybe work
the way he's thinking.
They have bunkers,
and on top,
bunkers, and they can keep us out of them. But
and on top of it, they're going to cause the catastrophe and then market themselves as the solution.
That's true.
To the catastrophe.
We'll
so
it was an interesting tweet though from Massey. Let's go on to yours.
All right, what do we even got here? I don't remember what the first one is. Oh, who would you pick for Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s shortlist for vice president? We have Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers, I guess the New York Jets now. Jesse the Body Ventura, the old school wrestler. He was a governor or something like that. Huge conspiracy theorist, so I kind of like him. Tulsi Gabbard, Rand Paul, not a bad pick. Andrew Yang. Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs, fantastic, huge right-wing guy. Tony Robinson, I think, would be a fantastic pick to make a cartoon fucking, cabinet. And then Trisha Lindsay, I don't know who she is. Who's the last
civil
chick.
rights attorney?
Oh, okay, yeah. So who you pick? Man, Jesse the Body Ventura, Mike Rowe, Tony Robinson. Some solid fucking choices for Kennedy.
I like to think strategically with this. This is interesting because we just talked about recently Tulsi Gabbard.
I know,
Trump.
and you picked Tulsi, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Tulsi's a good pick for RFK because she's too much like RFK. You're not going to gain any votes by picking someone who's just like you because you're like you, right? I think in this regard, Rand Paul would probably be the best pick because he's the most like he would get the Libertarians probably on board with RFK, which we're not. And he will probably pull from some of the America First people who aren't the best. He'll pull from the right, in a sense, where I feel like RFK pulls from the left himself. And that's how you can maybe get off the top to where you win. Aaron Rodgers is really interesting. I wonder if he's actually considering that. The person I saw
don't know
who
if
was
this
like
is satire or not. I don't know.
No,
this
was
satire,
serious.
But...
the person I've seen rumored is not even on this list. I don't know who she is. She's this Asian woman. Never heard of her before. Like a business person. I don't know if that's going to be who it is. It'll be interesting. Tony
Robinson, man.
Will be interesting. It really will be interesting to see what impact RFK has on the election. Like I think he's going to be a thorn in the side in terms of like the voting. Like he's not going to get 1%. He's going to get a significant percent, which will throw the whole thing into.
And it's a percent,
Yeah, so that will be interesting to see. All right, let's go on to my second tweet here, and it is actually from Rand Paul. And Rand Paul says, my statement on the House TikTok ban. The passage of the House TikTok ban is not just a misguided overreach. It's a draconian measure that stifles free expression, tramples constitutional rights, and disrupts the economic pursuits of millions of Americans. With an iron fist, Congress dictated an unrealistic and narrow path for divestment, effectively banning TikTok and ignoring its substantial investments in data security. This act is not securing our nation. It's a disturbing gift of unprecedented authority to President Biden and the surveillance state that threatens the very core of American digital innovation and free expression. I tend to agree with what Rand Paul has to say. That was very well thought out. And stuff.
Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, I don't want China to be able to mine my data and manipulate what I see, but at the same time, I do not trust this.
They're further away physically, at least. They're on the other side of the planet. I think having my data mined from China on the other side of the planet is way less of a threat than whatever Biden and the regime are planning to do if this bill passes. Way less of an immediate threat to you as compared to your data being controlled by the regime in Washington, D.C., who could pass a law at any moment trying to limit our rights. We're like, outside of long-term cultural change or the magical invasion fleet across the sea, the more direct threat is the federal government of the United States, not China. Yeah. The best way you could inoculate yourself to any of these cultural threats from China is to not participate, to raise good children, to keep them off the apps, and instill good morals and virtues in them yourself.
Yeah.
All right.
What was I going to say? I saw a meme, and hold on, open up my next one. I just want to, before I say what this meme is, I want to make sure it's not my ex over here. Oh, yeah. Okay, this is what I was going to say. So this is a meme for everybody who's not watching. The first block has a picture of somebody on their cell phone texting a friend. Should I try TikTok? Their friend, so now the next scene is their friend, no, the Chinese will spy on you. And the third is an FBI agent on their computer watching and listening in and reading their text messages. This is what I was about to say. This is the problem with giving Biden this type of power. Who knows what they're planning on doing when, in fact, the U.S. government is mining our own data as we speak right now.
Yeah. Also, just like on face value, like you actually think these people give a shit about you to the point where like we got to protect the American citizens. Like, while at the same time, while they're literally letting an invasion of people cross the southern border and
allowing them to buy
allowing
guns.
it to happen. But like, oh, hang on, we got to protect you from a social media app. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Totally believable. All right. I got two more. This next one is actually Trump's position on this, which has changed from when we did the episode, which is interesting in of itself. Look at this. It's taking forever. Did they not want Truth Social? This is from Truth Social. And Trump goes, TikTok is less of a danger to the USA than Meta, Facebook, which is a true enemy of the people. They spent $500 million against me and our great Republican Party, locked boxes and all, and should never have been allowed to do that. TikTok didn't. Like crooked Joe Biden, Facebook is a great threat to democracy, and it will only get bigger and stronger if TikTok is taken out. Do them both and restrict the money allowed to be spent on politics and lock boxes by Meta and Facebook. So Trump is now taking the opposite position that he used to take.
Which is sad. I mean, he's not wrong about Facebook. Yeah. That's what happened. But yeah, I know. A few years ago, it's national security threat, and now we need him.
Okay.
I wonder if
my position changed over the course of the past 4 years. Maybe
we're not saying that your position can't change. No. Maybe he knows stuff that I don't know.
Come on, man. How about the Hunter Biden laptop story? Facebook, Twitter at the time on the old regime, Instagram, they all banned that. They censored it from being shared. Again, I don't think TikTok did. Although it's not exactly the same type of app where you can share a news story, but you can post a video of it or something. And so like perhaps things like that. This is what I'm hoping. I'm hoping the weaponization and how far they've tried to go against Trump has radicalized him. Like he hasn't demonstrated that to me yet, but this is one tiny thing perhaps.
I know you're looking for the Javier Milei method of just showing up on TV and being like, you shit leftist, I'm going to fuck you all over. Like, I know you're looking for that, but he can't do that right now. He can't. He can't do that till his inauguration speech.
We'll see. We will see. You got one more, and then I got one more wholesome one to end it off with.
This is a little off topic. It is a picture of Hillary Clinton, and the caption says she was right about literally everything. What? So you know that meme of the fat toothless lady at the ball game? Yeah. What? W-U-T?
Yeah.
What?
So she was right about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. She was right about that one, huh?
She was right about Russia spying.
2 million people dead.
Yeah. Interfering in our 2016 election. Just, I mean, how disconnected do you need to be?
Yeah. Singer, songwriter, political. Wow. 500,000 followers. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So my last one, we're going to end it here on a wholesome meme. This one was by Elon Musk himself.
Is this the I love you? Oh,
no. This is, for those listening, this is a cartoon of a knight, and he's fighting a dragon. And he says, I shall defeat you, evil dragon, and steal your hoard of wealth. He's fighting the dragon, and he finally slays the dragon. He goes, finally, the beast is slain. The gold shall be mine. Now, the dragon's half dead, and they're looking at like a table with like a wheel on it now. And the knight's like, what the hell is this? Where is the treasure hoard? And the dragon goes to him, that is a thresher. It separates the wheat from the chaff and automatically without much manual labor. And the dragon continues on to go, the wealth of nations is not in gold or coins, but in their productive capacity. You see, even with all of the gold in the world, you can't produce more. All it will do is cause gold to be less valuable. What you need are machines to free up labor so you can create more with less. I also have an automated cotton loom if you're interested. This sucks. I can't go back to the princess with this nerd shit. Goddamn nerd dragon. Wholesome meme. I thought that was so funny, but also there's like a ring of truth to it. Like money and even gold. Gold is better than the fake money we have nowadays, right, from the Federal Reserve. But like wealth is measured in like production, making things. Like and plowing the fields, growing crops, things like that.
And shocking that Biden and Obama want nothing to do with American workers and just sending all our jobs overseas.
Yeah. I don't know.
Strange. Yeah. All right, Doom Nation. That has been another episode. Skaggs, you got anything else?
That's it. Like, share, and subscribe.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Like, share, subscribe. Doom Nation, if you follow us on YouTube, we are up to and over 5,000 followers. If you listen to the TikTok episode that we were showing you earlier, Our goal for the end of the year at that time was 1,000 followers, and here we are with 5,000. It's a pleasure and an honor. Thank you guys so much. Continue to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next week. Adios.